The Han tribe is at a critical juncture. Internal reforms are progressing, technology is advancing, and new resources, silk, are on the horizon. However, the attack on the caravan signals escalating external conflicts. The story is poised to explore how the protagonist will respond to this threat, balance internal development with external security, and continue to build his vision of a powerful, unified nation. The introduction of silkworms also opens a new avenue for technological and economic growth. This is what Yufu said in the letter. He said he wants to lead the team to get revenge and recover the lost livestock. He asked if I agree. What do you two think? You put away the animal skin and said to the two of them, Chief, I think we should let Yufu come back first. Since most of the cattle and horses are still there, there's no need to pursue them. After all, the caravan is already short-handed. After this battle, many people are injured. There are only about 30 heavy cavalrymen left, and they are also injured. If we fight again, it will be too disadvantageous for us. The enemy still has at least 300 people. We can't win even if it's a battle of attrition. Dashu immediately advised, Yes, Chief, I also think we should let Yufu come back first. They have few people and are injured. They should focus on protecting the remaining cattle, horses, and supplies, and return to the tribe as soon as possible. Bringing back the remaining people and goods and getting so many seeds in advance is already the greatest contribution to the tribe. However, this time someone dared to attack our Han tribe. We can't just swallow this anger. Otherwise, the tribesmen below will definitely feel disheartened. Please, Chief, give the order and let me lead the troops to battle. I must make that group of blind things learn a lesson. Our Han tribe is not to be trifled with. Shuda also spoke up. At first, he was speaking reasonably, but after a few sentences, he revealed his true nature, making you smile and shake your head. Let you lead the troops to battle. Where are your troops? How many people do you have now? You looked at Shuda and asked with a smile. My troops, I have no one now. Hearing your question, Shuda realized that he had basically sent all his soldiers out. He had no one left. A complete bare commander. Excluding the heavy cavalry, there were only about 150 people in the non-production army. A group was sent to the two tribal alliances in the north to be stationed there permanently, and they wouldn't return until spring next year. Another group was sent to meet the Lu tribe, where there were not only hundreds of raised domestic pigs, but also grain seeds recently snatched from the Shin tribe. The importance goes without saying. Another group was sent to Rumeng Shuigu, Dreamlike, Water Valley, to collect tree seedlings. I don't know if they have returned yet. Only a few soldiers guarding the city gates are left in the entire new city. There's no one else to use, but Shuda was still unwilling to give up. He, the troop leader, watched the soldiers being sent out in teams every day. Even his deputy Xueyuanlang, Bloodslaughter, and quartermaster Shuya, Beastfang, led teams out. He was leading a few rookies to guard the city gate and had to teach those tribal chiefs and elders to learn Han characters. He was about to go crazy. Now that there was a chance to fight, how could he easily let it go? Chief, how about we gather the tribesmen here to fight? As long as you give me 500 people, no, 300 is enough, I guarantee that the enemy will take a detour when they see our Han character banner in the future, Shuda said with confidence. No, let alone 300, I can't even give you 100. You shook your head and said, Why, Chief? Are we just going to let it go after being beaten? Shuda immediately became unhappy and his voice became louder. Dashu, tell him why. You picked up the water and took a sip. It's already late July and our rice is about to be harvested. So much grain needs to be harvested, dried, and put into storage. All the tribesmen need to be mobilized. Where will we get people to go out and fight? Moreover, after this season's rice is harvested, we need to plant another crop. Winter will arrive at the earliest in November. Even if we can't plant grain, in these 3 months we can still plant some vegetables. In addition, in the remaining 3 months we also need to store enough fodder and firewood. The houses of the new tribesmen who joined this year must also be completed. We must ensure the winter supplies of all the newly arrived clans. This is very important. If they live worse in the Han tribe than before, then why the hell did they join our Han tribe? This is the first winter that those clans have spent after joining the Han tribe. I can guarantee that if the food for one family is not delivered this winter, there will definitely be people causing trouble below. Dashu counted the points one by one, making Shuda stunned. How could it be so difficult to get a few people to fight? The Han tribe has such a large population, and the number of livestock they own is enough to crush several ordinary nomadic tribes. Their strength should be very strong. Why is it that no one can be sent out when it comes to fighting? Is the strength of the Han tribe all rootless duckweed? Is it all a mirage? Does it vanish at a touch? Looking at Shuda's bewildered eyes, you knew what he was thinking, so you spoke to the two of them. Do you think that the current strength of the Han tribe seems fake, and it's difficult to send people out to fight? The two nodded at the same time, and then looked at you seriously, waiting for his answer. Actually, it's true. We have developed too fast, so it seems that our foundation is unstable. It's so difficult to mobilize a few people. But it's not your fault. You have already done a good job. As long as you continue to work hard like now, we will be able to stand firm by next year. All we need now is time. Think about Hanyang City. Wasn't it only established a year and a half ago? In at most another month, all the construction projects in Hanyang City will be completely completed. At that time, what else can the tribesmen of Hanyang City do besides farming and feeding chickens? This will free up their hands. So it's the same with the new city. This year is the first year of the new city, so it will naturally be a bit difficult. We have to cultivate land and build. To be able to settle tens of thousands of tribesmen in a few months, you have already done a good job. Let's all work harder. As long as we survive this winter, the tribesmen of the new city will be completely stabilized next year. At that time, if we still plant rice, we can at least plant 2 seasons. If we cooperate with new crops, it is possible to plant 3 or even 4 seasons. As long as there is no shortage of food and there are solid houses to live in, this group of tribesmen will be completely attached to us. At most, by the second half of next year, the new city will be able to free up its hands. At that time, we can do whatever we want. We will be able to provide manpower. You analyzed for the two and encouraged them. Aren't we in great danger now? If there are enemies attacking at this time, the Han tribe won't be able to protect itself. Shuda still couldn't get over it and said, You. What should I say about you? The fact that we can't provide manpower this year means that we don't have the ability to go on an expedition, but it doesn't mean that we don't have the ability to defend. Now, if an enemy comes to attack, see if these newly joined tribesmen will fight to the death with the enemy. This is the new home they built with their own hands. Whoever dares to cause trouble here will have their head beaten sideways. Besides, with more than 10,000 people in this place in the new city, which blind person would go crazy and attack here? Do they think the food is not good, or do they think their life is too long? You pointed at Shuda and said, Then what about the caravan? Just let it go. We won't take revenge. Shuda still mumbled unwillingly. Of course we can't just let it go. Since they dared to challenge our Han tribe, they must be prepared to be retaliated against. But now it's not suitable for us to mobilize a large number of people, and besides, distant water can't save a nearby fire. So even if we take revenge, we can only rely on Yufu and the others, and we can't let ourselves suffer heavy casualties. Do you two have any ideas? The Han tribe is getting bigger and bigger. If we want to develop further, we need many talented management personnel. So in order to cultivate these two people, you now ask their opinions on any problems you encounter, and then you give your own analysis and evaluation, so that the two can learn to deal with things themselves as soon as possible. You looked at Shuda. This guy was scratching his head anxiously, seeming to think that there were too few people to fight. Looking at Dashu again, Dashu immediately stated his idea. Chief, I think it's okay to teach them a lesson, but there's no need to chase them relentlessly, nor is there a need to exterminate them. Just let them know how powerful the Han tribe. How about this? Since that Shin tribe can lure others to attack us, we can also find helpers in the grasslands. We just need to find those tribes that have traded with us, are relatively strong, and are well-behaved. We can recruit some warriors with bayan, white salt, just like the labor market here. But we can't let them help with the fighting. We just need them to help take care of the wounded and the remaining supplies. Then, send all the heavy cavalry out to launch a surprise attack. The purpose of this surprise attack is not to recover the livestock, because that would easily make the warriors unable to let go. Therefore, the purpose should be to inflict casualties on the enemy. This revenge is only for killing people. The more the better. Kill until the enemy is afraid. Kill until they dare not attack our caravan again in the future. Well, your idea is okay, but it's too reliant on help. As you said, the helpers we find must be very reliable. Otherwise, if you send all the warriors out, the remaining people and supplies of the caravan may be directly swallowed by the helpers, so the risk is too great. You commented on Da Shu's strategy. I didn't think of that. Does the chief have a better idea? Da Shu asked back. The method you mentioned is okay, but you have misunderstood the essence of the matter. The purpose of this revenge is not actually killing people, but deterrence, to make them afraid, right? You looked at the two and asked, yes, that's the case, but how can we make them afraid without killing people? We can't just go and scold them and they will be afraid, right? Shuda asked, puzzled. Hey, you're right, just go and scold them. It doesn't matter whether you kill people or not. Didn't the other party already die a lot of people in this battle? Then cut off their heads and give them back. And by the way, warn them that if they come again next time, none of them will return. If they don't submit, then beat them again, beat them until they submit. You followed Shuda's words. So, just scold them, and that's it? Da Shu also looked at you with a bewildered expression. Of course, that's not enough. Since we can't muster much military strength right now, we'll adopt a strategy of psychological warfare. As long as we can intimidate the other side, that's enough. This is called, obfuscation. Yes, a tactic of deception, to make them uncertain of how strong we really are. My plan is this. You mentioned finding help, that's fine. Let Yufu judge the character of the others himself. After recruiting helpers, the caravan shouldn't continue its journey, but should rest in place and wait for the heavy cavalry to return, and then return together. Have the heavy cavalry cut off the heads of the enemy's dead, and do it in front of those mercenary warriors. This will also serve as a deterrent, making them afraid to easily attack our caravan. Then preserve the heads with salt, otherwise they'll easily rot in this hot weather. Then have our cavalry send these heads to the enemy at top speed, along with a diplomatic letter and a flag. The letter should state that they have violated the caravan of the Han, killed our people and stolen our goods, which is tantamount to provoking the Han Empire. This matter is not over. Either they obediently send people, cattle, and horses as an apology, and willingly submit, or they can wash their necks and wait for our 100,000 iron cavalry to crush them into ashes. As for that flag, it should say, those who offend the mighty Han though far away shall be punished. Yes, that's the sentence. Also, prepare 2 of these flags. Have the caravan build a Jingguan with the other one, and then plant the flag on top of it, you said after thinking for a moment. But Chieftain, where are we going to get 100,000 iron cavalry? We don't even have 100,000 clansmen. Isn't this deceiving them? Shuda retorted stubbornly. Yes, we're deceiving them, so what? Never mind 100,000. If we could muster 1,000 of our heavy cavalry, it would scare them to death. So what's wrong with me saying 100,000? Anyway, they don't know how many you actually have. The most important thing is to make them afraid, to let them know that they have provoked someone they shouldn't have, you retorted. But, Chieftain, they probably can't understand our Han characters, right? And even if they can, will they compensate us? Da Shu also asked. It doesn't matter if they can't understand. The warriors can read it to them. That's not important. The important thing is to be preemptive. We have our own writing and culture. If they can't understand it, it means they are uncivilized barbarians. This will also make them understand the gap between us and them, and make them even more afraid. As for whether they will compensate us, that's not important. It was just to scare them a little anyway. Why would you expect so much? If they are afraid, then it's even better if they are willing to compensate. If they are unwilling to compensate, then they will have to wait for our army to press on. But we haven't said when we will act, so even if they don't compensate, they will have to spend a long time in fear. And this is not the ultimate goal. What do you think they will most likely do if they are really afraid, and we don't attack them for a long time? You asked the two of them. What will they do? If it were me, after this happened, I would definitely want to vent my anger. The Han tribe is too powerful. I can't afford to provoke them. So I would definitely go after the Shin tribe who gave me the idea to vent my anger. Xueyuanlang said foolishly. That's right. You finally said something right for once. That's exactly the result I want. Let them fight each other first. We'll talk about the future when we have time next year. You praised Xueyuanlang, making the burly man feel embarrassed. Then, Chieftain, what is the Jingguan you mentioned at the end? Dashu also asked the last question for this discussion. Jingguan, it is to pile up the corpses of the enemy into a mountain and seal it with soil to make a huge tomb. Right. And also put that flag of though far away shall be punished next to it. Jingguan, that is the tomb, is actually a pile of corpses covered with soil. The purpose of doing this is to show the strength of our Han tribe and to serve as a warning to passers-by that anyone who dares to make trouble for the Han tribe will end up like this. They should also think twice before provoking us. This matter will be left to the remaining caravan and those hired people. This will also prevent them from acting rashly. You thought for a moment and explained to the two. Jingguan. The two muttered the new term in a low voice, feeling that they had learned another trick from the chieftain. It turned out that just some enemy corpses could be used in this way. Chieftain, we understand. Then I will go and prepare the cloth now so that we can make those two big flags. It's better to do this sooner. In 2 days the corpses may be rotten, Dashu said immediately. Okay, you go and prepare. I'll write them a letter now. You nodded. Both of them had their own things to do, leaving only Xueyuanlang feeling gloomy, not having been given any task. He had originally wanted to take advantage of this incident to go out for a spin, but he didn't expect that the chieftain didn't want to fight at all, and the tribe didn't have enough people for him to fight. Seeing Xueyuanlang walking out dejectedly, you couldn't help but call out to him from behind. Xueyuanlang, you should also go back and prepare well. Learn to read and write more. I also brought some writing brushes and pencils this time, and there is no shortage of paper here. Practicing more is good for you. By this winter, I may have to expand the army again. Our current number of warriors is still too small. Really expand the army this winter? Are we going out to fight? Are we going north to fight the cannibals or south to beat up the tribe that attacked the caravan? Xueyuanglang's eyes lit up when he heard your words. You helplessly rubbed your forehead. Neither. I want to expand our occupied area and also open up some new routes. These all require warriors to do. In short, there will definitely be something for you to do at that time, so you should go and study hard first. I don't want to write you an order and you have to have someone else read it. To you. Yes, Chieftain, I understand. Xueyuanlang blushed and awkwardly took his leave. On the other side, Dashu quickly found 2 pieces of white cloth, drew 2 large flags with dye according to the characters you gave, folded them together and brought them to you. You had just blown dry the ink on the diplomatic letter and ordered Dashu to bring some anti-inflammatory, fever-reducing, and trauma-treating herbs and pack them together to be sent out by the giant eagle. What happens next is up to you, Fu. This matter is finally settled, and you can continue to be busy with other things. You went back to check the operation of the paper-making production line. The manually operated foot-powered flywheel provides very stable power, at least more stable than uncontrollable natural forces such as water and wind. It just requires 3 people to take turns, which is still a bit wasteful of manpower. A 6-person production team One for burning the kang, one for rolling paper, one for adding materials, and the remaining 3 take turns providing power. This is the current situation of the production line. But compared with the previous ancient paper-making methods, there has been considerable progress. Only the quality of the finished product is very general. But the advantage in output is enough for you to ignore its shortcomings. If you want good quality, you can slowly improve it later. After staying in Xincheng for another 2 days, the day of the rice harvest in Xincheng finally arrived. All the newly joined clansmen were extremely happy. Seeing them harvesting rice under the scorching sun, working and laughing loudly at the same time, you knew how happy they were. Isn't this stable way of obtaining food the reason why they chose to join the Han tribe? Whether it was the new clansmen who had officially announced their joining, or those tribes who still lived here as laborers, all joined the harvest team with great joy. Even the Ling tribe living in the swamp came. Their own rice had just been planted not long ago, but the Han tribe's rice was already ripe. Coming here to help this time was also to learn the experience of rice harvesting and storage. After all, in less than 2 months they would also welcome this day. You stand on the city wall overlooking the farmland by the river and the barren land on the other side of the river. Although there are many swamps there, it is not completely useless. Building several heavy metal smelters there is your purpose at this time. Geography books say that forests are the lungs of the earth, absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing large amounts of oxygen, providing the environment necessary for the survival of all living things on the planet. So what are swamps and wetlands? Undoubtedly, they are the kidneys of a planet. What are kidneys for? They are used to filter impurities in the blood. To put it bluntly, it is a purification system. Swamps and wetlands are no exception. They can automatically absorb and degrade a large amount of heavy metal pollutants, filtering impurities for the planet. And if you want to smelt lead and silver, these heavy metals, the heavy metal pollution caused is very serious. In the absence of modern sewage treatment methods, directly discharging pollutants into the swamp is a good choice. Even in modern times, in places with relatively backward infrastructure like India, they are also using this ecological cycle model. They discharge garbage and heavy metal polluted wastewater into wetlands. After natural automatic purification, the water quality flowing downstream has reached the standard for irrigating rice. It is a very cost-effective and environmentally friendly method. Now that the Han tribe has lead and silver ore output, then for the future privatization process, coinage must be put on the agenda as soon as possible. And if you want to make coins, the smelting of copper, lead, and silver must be solved first. Therefore, the site of a smelter should be finalized as soon as possible, and it must also be convenient for transportation. Considering the location in the swamp wetland, using water, transport is the best choice. It seems that it still has to be done by the Ling tribe. After taking so many benefits from the Han tribe, it's finally time to put them to use. You walk down the steps of the city wall, preparing to discuss with Ling Cao, the leader of this team, about having the Ling tribe send people to help the Han tribe choose a location. The Ling tribe is the most familiar with the environment in the swamp, and letting them help is much better than the Han tribe sending people to blunder around. After taking so many benefits from the Han tribe, you believe that they will certainly not refuse this small matter. However, just at this moment, a relatively good piece of news reached your ears, making you feel a little better about the caravan attack. The Lu tribe and the team escorting the grain seeds have returned. The arrival of this batch of seeds is very timely. The rice in Xincheng is being harvested, and it is impossible to plant another crop of rice or wheat before winter and wait for it to mature. Only crops like corn, which can mature in 3 months, have a chance to be planted for another season. Having this extra batch of grain will definitely be of great benefit to the development of the Han tribe next year. Although there are seeds other than corn, such as soybeans, you don't know the variety of soybeans. There are indeed soybeans that can mature in 3 months, but it depends on the geographical location and variety. Most soybeans require about 4 months of planting time. If they do not mature by winter, the seeds will be wasted. And it's the same with corn. Although Elder Shang of the Xin tribe said that their corn can mature in 3 months, that is the growth cycle in their area. Who knows if the geographical environment of the Han tribe can also mature in 3 months. Therefore, in order to avoid the risk of failure, you decide to take out a quarter of the corn seeds to plant this time. Even if they don't mature before winter, you can accept this loss. In order to catch up with this summer planting while harvesting rice in the paddy fields, you have already separated some people to cultivate corn seedlings. Corn can actually be planted directly in the field, but it is also possible to cultivate seedlings first, and then transplant them. Cultivating seedlings has its advantages. It can increase the germination rate and save some seeds compared to direct planting. When the corn seedlings grow, they just need to be transplanted one by one into the field. Using paddy fields to grow corn is also no problem, especially when rice is just harvested. In order to facilitate people to go down to the ground during harvesting, it is necessary to drain the water and dry the land 10 days in advance so that the water in the paddy field can fully evaporate and the land can harden. This is the most suitable time to complete the replacement of paddy fields and dry fields. Moreover, this rotation of rice and corn and the rotation of paddy fields and dry fields can play a good role in protecting and utilizing the land. In addition, these are newly developed fertile fields, and no crops have been planted before. The soil fertility is very sufficient, and there is no need to worry about the decline of soil fertility within a few years. But fertilization is still necessary, it's just that the amount used is not large. What really consumes fertilizer is not the grain, but those cabbages. This kind of large leaf vegetable is actually the most fertilizer consuming. The amount of fertilizer used for 1 moo of cabbage is much more than that used for grain. In order to successfully complete this rotation of rice and corn, you continue to stay in Xinjiang to supervise, guiding the clansmen to do farm work, and urging the paper mill to build new production lines. And he has to wait for the paper mill to produce enough paper. This time when he returns to Hanyang City, he must bring enough window paper. Chieftain, this corn looks so big one is worth several grains of rice. Does this thing grow a lot? If it can also grow a bunch like rice, how much grain would that be? A group of clan leaders stood by the farmland and watched you demonstrate how to plant corn. I don't know if this corn is as delicious as rice. I have eaten rice, but I don't know what this corn tastes like. You still want to taste it? These are all seeds. I heard that the warriors of the caravan exchange them with their lives. Can you eat them? It doesn't matter if this corn is delicious or not, as long as it can be eaten. You are still picky. Here, have you forgotten how everyone spent the winter before joining the Han tribe? It's good to have something to eat, and you're still picky about whether it's good or not, really. The older Chai clan leader couldn't help but interrupt, but after thinking for a long time, he didn't know what words to use to describe these. Guys, that's right. Let's not talk about whether this corn is delicious or not, and regardless of how much it can produce, the speed of maturing in 3 Huan months is worth our vigorous planting. Think about it for yourselves. If we all plant corn, we can plant at least 3 crops a year. Isn't that 1 more season than rice? And even if it is rotated with rice, 3 seasons of grain can be planted in a year. Planting 1 more season is always better than letting the land lie idle for those 3 months. The clan leader of the Zhu clan also said at this time, and you couldn't help but laugh while listening to their discussion, while thinking about inventing a seed drill for sowing as soon as possible. After sowing a row of seeds, he straightened up and explained to the clan leaders, "Everyone, be quiet. I know that you are not familiar with corn. You have been planting rice since before you joined the Han tribe last year, so of course you have more confidence in rice. But now I want to tell you that this corn is no worse than rice." You clapped your hands to attract everyone's attention, and the clan leaders stopped discussing and looked at you in surprise when they heard what you said. What does it mean to be no worse than rice? First of all, corn is a very delicious grain. Of course, some people may not be used to it. It is a kind of coarse grain. Corn cannot be used to steam rice, but it can be used to make porridge, or it can be ground into flour to make food such as pancakes, which is similar to flatbread. If wheat flour is added to corn flour, it can also be made into corn-steamed buns. I will tell you how to eat it after it is grown. In short, this is also a very delicious and very filling grain. Then I will tell you about planting. It only takes 3 months to plant a crop of corn. I have already told you this before, but we are not sure whether it is really 3 months. We have to try this time to know. Then there is what corn looks like. I believe you all want to know. In fact, corn grows very tall, about the height of a person, or even taller. Unlike rice, which grows many stems, corn has only one stem, and it is very thick, a little thicker than a finger. It will grow more than a dozen very large leaves, and 2 to 3 corn cobs will grow in the middle, or even 1 corn cob per leaf. But basically, not much corn will grow that way, so we generally only keep the 2 in the middle, or even 1, and the others must be broken off. Don't be reluctant. Only by breaking off those that are competing for nutrients can the 2 in the middle grow bigger and better, so as to increase production and income. And then there is the question of yield that you are most concerned about. I haven't calculated how much it can produce, but I know that the yield of this thing is very high, at least no less than the rice you are planting now. Oh, by the way, when I say this amount, I mean the comparison of weight, not the number of grains of grain. You also know that corn is much larger than rice. You made a joke to them at the end, which made everyone laugh. But they are even more happy that the chieftain personally said that this new grain is delicious, produces more than rice, and grows faster than rice, which means that they will never have to worry about food again in the future. Their initial choice to join the Han tribe was also correct. Long live the chieftain. Long live the Han tribe, someone suddenly shouted from the crowd, and others followed. The joy of the harvest and the appearance of new grains, all kinds of happy events, added together, completely ignited the enthusiasm of the clansmen. You smile at your people, and you feel that it is necessary to set a festival for the clansmen to celebrate. Humans are social animals. They like to live in groups and are very enthusiastic about collective activities. Activities such as sacrifices and celebrations are naturally evolved. Collective activities can better generate cohesion so that everyone can realize that they are part of a group rather than a lonely individual. Before, these tribes joined the Han tribe. They all had their own witch or elders. The sacrificial activities were held every few days. Sacrifices were held for hunting, for the dead, and for childbirth. There were all kinds of strange reasons, and they enjoyed it. But since joining the Han tribe, this kind of sacrificial activity has become less frequent. Only a major sacrifice at the beginning of the year is left. The rest of the time is spent in constant labor. Even if the clansmen have happy or sad times, there is no way to vent them. Setting a fixed festival has become the best way to vent. Especially at this time of year, a collective activity such as a festival celebration can give all the newcomers a sense of collective honor. They are already members of the Han tribe. They have obtained a bumper harvest of grain through their own labor. From now on, they will no longer starve to death due to lack of food. Joining the Han tribe is the wisest choice. At the same time, this is also a message you convey to those laborers who are still hesitating whether to join the Han tribe. That is, join the Han tribe. As long as you are willing to work, you will have food to eat and you will not starve to death. So you have to make a decision quickly. After thinking for a long time, you still haven't figured out which day to set the festival. The grain in Xincheng and Hanyang City was not planted at the same time, so the harvest cannot be set on the same day. So a national holiday with a unified time is not possible for the time being. We can only hold a temporary celebration to unite people's hearts and celebrate this harvest. If you think of it, do it. Taking advantage of the fact that all the clan leaders are here this time, you immediately said to everyone, "Clan leaders, I have decided to hold a celebration here in Xincheng after the corn planting is over to celebrate the harvest of rice. This is the first crop of grain harvested since everyone joined the Han tribe. It is all thanks to the mutual help and joint efforts of the clansmen that we have this day. This is a day worth celebrating. I believe that the clansmen will also be very happy to see so much grain they have grown. Instead of letting them secretly enjoy themselves, it is better to gather everyone together to celebrate. What do you think? Chieftain, what is a celebration? Is it a sacrifice? I also think we should offer a sacrifice to thank the heavens for allowing us to have enough to eat. No, you are wrong about that. We thank the heavens for good weather and for not sending us disasters. That is correct. But to be able to harvest so much grain, it is not because of the heavens, but because of yourselves, because of everyone who participated in the labor. Even if the weather is good every day, but you do nothing yourself, do not till the fields, do not know how to plant, then you will still starve to death. Heaven will not give you a free lunch. We can have a good harvest because of our own hands, because of our diligence. This is something that everyone should be proud of. It is not given to us by heaven for free. You heard clan leader Ao's words about thanking the heavens for letting them eat their fill, and immediately stood up to correct him. This is not a good belief. It is correct that we respect heaven and earth, because heaven and earth gave birth to us, but the grain we get through our hard work has nothing to do with God. This credit must be distinguished. If you give all the credit to God, then all our hard work is in vain. Working hard and having no sense of honor, who would want to work in the future? Getting up early and carrying a hoe to the fields, and thanking God for giving us food before eating dinner at home. It turns out that I have been working for nothing all day. Then there is no need to work, just stay at home and pray to God every day. When the clan leaders heard this, they also felt that the chieftain made sense. This grain was obtained through their own hard work. If they were lazy, even the best God would not give them food for free. Therefore, diligence is a virtue that needs to be vigorously praised. This is the honor of every member of the Han tribe. The chieftain is right. This is the credit of all the clansmen. What we should reward most is every clansman who has contributed his labor. Then how should we hold this sacrifice? Clan leader Chai immediately echoed. No, it's not a sacrifice, it's a festival celebration. You reminded. Then is it different from a sacrifice? We have never held a celebration before. Yes, chieftain. What should this celebration be called? Hearing the discussions of the clan leaders, a flash of inspiration flashed in your mind, and you immediately had a good idea. Since this festival celebration is to celebrate the harvest achieved through everyone's efforts, I think it should be called Labor Day. This Labor Day does not have a fixed time for the time being, but it will be held every year. We will determine the specific time next year. The way of celebration is not sacrifice, but a commendation meeting. We can select a recognized model worker from each clan. This model worker can be in various fields. As long as they work diligently for the tribe and make contributions, they can receive rewards, not only in terms of honor, but also materially. On the day of the celebration, all the model workers will be commended in front of all the clansmen, and awards will be given. Let all the clansmen know that as long as they work hard, everyone has the opportunity to gain honor, receive rewards, and become a respected person. First establish rules, then set examples. This is a common trick used by modern managers. However, this very simple method can have a very good effect. Everyone has a desire to compare. You never deny that comparison is a bad habit. As long as the direction of this comparison is guided to the right path, then everyone can achieve success. Comparison is a driving force for upward mobility. Seeing that others are doing better than themselves, they will work harder than others, and there will always be a day when they surpass others. Benign competition helps to promote the vitality of the group, and keeping a group's vitality upward is the most important thing for a collective. Seeing those model workers enjoy the admiration of everyone under the spotlight and harvest their personal wealth, who wouldn't be envious, who wouldn't want to compare? Then if you want to get the same honor and wealth, you can only work harder than the model worker. This is your real purpose. You and a group of clan leaders finalized the plan for the Labor Day celebration, and then began to prepare separately. Each clan must select at least one model worker. This is also to balance things, so that they don't fight over this. As for the selection mode, it requires the consent of at least 5 clan leaders, which can also prevent them from choosing randomly. After the selection, it will be submitted to you for review, and then a model worker can be established. Strict. Review is not useless. This is to set an example, and it must be convincing. Otherwise, it will not only fail to achieve a positive effect, but also easily cause internal chaos. In the next few days, things went exceptionally smoothly. As the saying goes, when there is grain in the tank, the heart is not panicked. Seeing a large amount of rice being harvested and stored in the warehouse, all the clansmen were very happy, and they were also very concerned about the celebration, activities proposed by the tribe, and they were very cooperative in the selection of model workers. Xincheng is very lively here, but Hanyang City can't catch up this time. They can only hold a separate Labor Day. Only after everything is stabilized next year will it be possible to achieve synchronization between the two cities, and even completely. Fix a date to fix Labor Day in the territory of the Han tribe. Everyone is busy. The corn has sprouted trumpet-shaped seedlings and is about to be planted in the fields. The 1-palm-high stalks remaining in the rice fields after the rice harvest have also been burned, and then mixed with fertilizer and plowed into the ground. The planting area this time is not very large. Only a quarter of the corn seeds are used, covering an area of about 100 myu. The reason why so much area can be planted is not because there are many seeds, but because it is not planted very densely. Corn leaves are large and the stems are tall. If it is planted too densely, it will affect the ventilation of the cornfield. The first is that it is easy to get sick, and the second is that it is easy to lodge, so ventilation is still very important. While the clansmen were working hard to cultivate, you also transferred a batch of materials from Hanyang City as rewards, by Flying Eagle, preparing to distribute them at the celebration. To set an example, it is not enough to just reward the title of a model worker. Without tangible benefits, how can others be moved? The seeds of private ownership have long been planted in Hanyang City, and chickens and rabbits have long been distributed to every household. Xincheng can naturally do the same. All the preparations for the celebration are running smoothly, and, in the caravan at the southern end of the grassland, your plan is also unfolding. Yufu also knows that the current manpower is simply useless. Wanting revenge is just a matter of everyone holding their breath. The Han tribe is so powerful, yet they have been bullied by others. They cannot tolerate this. But he is not a fool. Being unable to tolerate does not mean that you must be reckless. The consequences of that are very serious. If it is not done well, the entire caravan will be finished, and the hard-earned materials may be cheaper for others. And the plan you gave is just right for Yufu's mind. Whether to fight or not is not important. The important thing is to vent this anger. Taking people to scare the other party may also be able to ask for some compensation. What if they give? People should have dreams. According to your request, he first sent people to find his old friend Suritu to hire a group of warriors, a total of 60 people, only responsible for protecting the safety of the Han tribe caravan. After the Gire, manpower was in place. He cut off the heads of the enemy's dead in front of them, pickled them with salt, and packed them for later use. Then he assembled all the heavy cavalry that could move. Those seriously injured warriors were also replaced by the uninjured members of the caravan, put on the armor of the warriors, took their long knives, and followed the heavy cavalry to collect debts. After this demonstration began, the remaining members of the caravan and the hired warriors built the Jingguan together. Although they didn't know if it would work or if it could deter the enemy, they did feel very relieved. Although there were only more than 100 corpses, this could be regarded as the spoils of war of the Han tribe. Generally, small tribes may not be able to gather so many living people. Of course, this is only relative to those small tribes in the mountains. The tribes on the grassland are generally larger. They rely on grazing for a living. As long as they have cattle, horses, and sheep, they have everything they need to eat, drink, and wear. Their living conditions are obviously better than those of the tribes in the mountains. Even small tribes have about 300 people. By the way, what is this pile of corpses called by the chieftain? A team member holding a shovel and shoveling soil. Onto the Jingguan said, "It seems to be called Jingguan, the Jing of Beijing, the Guan of observation. It was taught before," another team member said while shoveling soil. Jingguan, the chieftain came up with it. With this large pile of corpses stacked here, anyone who sees it will have to weigh the strength of their tribe. If you want to make trouble for our Han tribe, first count whether the men in your tribe are more than this pile of corpses. That's right, and this big white flag, those who offend the mighty Han, though far away, shall be punished. What a powerful sentence. As long as you provoke the Han tribe, you will be punished no matter how far you run. Alas, it's a pity that not everyone can understand it. It doesn't matter if they can't understand the flag, as long as they can understand this pile of corpses. Building a Jingguan is to make others afraid. As long as they are afraid, they will have to obediently walk around when they see a team holding this kind of flag in the future. Ha 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 ha. I just don't know if the team carrying this flag now has made those people afraid. I really want to follow Captain Yufu to collect debts from them. They killed our Han people and stole our Han things. It is impossible to let it go like this. A team member standing on the Jingguan and planting a flag while sighing looked towards the edge of the grassland to the west. The terrain there gradually rose, and it was not at the same altitude as here. At the end of the distant skyline, it is said that winter there can last for 5 or 6 months, and the snow on the Yai highlands takes half a year to melt. The vegetation can only grow for half a year, and that cold and barren place is where the Xueyuanlang, snowfield wolf tribe lives. Because of the local climate, they do not have enough water and grass, and often come here to rob other tribes of their cattle and sheep, or the caravans that often move around in this area. The Shin tribe was repeatedly robbed before. Who knew that they would attract their own enemies to attack the Han tribe's caravan? This move of, "my enemy's enemy is not necessarily a friend," was played really well by the old man of the Shin tribe. On the distant skyline, the Han tribe's Azuka giant eagle was scouting in the sky, searching for the enemies who had just robbed the caravan, guiding the direction for the elite warriors of the Han tribe below. Yufu personally led the heavy cavalry squad, each with 3 fast horses to take turns riding. After a long 3-day chase, they finally caught up with the enemy before they returned home. The warriors of Xueyuanlang were also having a hard time. They thought that this raid would be another big harvest, but they didn't expect that a small caravan would be so powerful. In the past, when they went out to raid, they basically directly robbed the herds of livestock that were grazing outside. A large herd of livestock had only a dozen people herding them. As long as these dozen people were killed, they could obtain a large number of livestock. Of course, this was not without risk. If they were too close to the target tribe, they were likely to be chased and beaten by the entire tribe. Such a situation was not uncommon. Then there was the looting of the Shin tribe's caravan. The caravan of that tribe was very interesting. They always used a large number of horses to transport goods. Of course, this was also the way of transportation in the entire grassland. Everyone was the same. When looting this kind of target, as long as they hang them from a distance and shoot arrows, and then charge once, they can almost clear the caravan. After that, they can choose the goods of the caravan as they please. But the caravan of the Han tribe that they encountered this time was a strange one. Not only did it have caravan members, but it also had dozens of warriors specifically responsible for guarding. If it were just like this, it would be nothing. They wouldn't be afraid of these dozens of people. They had robbed teams with more people before, but before they could get close, they didn't expect the warriors of the other side to rush over first. The people of Xueyuanlang will never forget the scene at that time. The warriors of the other side were like devils, wearing strange things that were dark and shiny. looking like the scales of black fish from a distance, or like the feathers of crows. But they were much stronger than these two things. Their self-made wolf-tooth arrows could not penetrate the strange attire of the other side at all. Some warriors with good archery skills wanted to aim at the faces of the other side and shoot arrows, but found that the faces of the other side were all golden and ferocious, looking very terrifying, and they were all exactly the same. How could people have such faces? And they were very hard, a few times stronger than the black scales on their bodies, looking like stones. The arrows flew to the faces of the other side and were directly bounced off, causing no harm to them at all. In this way, the dozens of black-scaled warriors of the other side actually withstood the arrows of their vanguard and rushed up. They didn't have bows and arrows, but they held a weapon that had never been seen before. The weapon reflected the color of the snowfield in the moonlight, and every time it touched their bodies, it would cause huge damage. Either they were directly beheaded or dismembered, or they were directly disemboweled. Just dozens of people, killed hundreds of them, and this did not include those seriously injured clansmen. The screams at that time make them shudder to think of it now. It's not that they haven't killed people before, but they have never seen such killing before. In the past, whether they were hit by an arrow or a spear, at most it was a hole. Even if they died, they had a whole body. Where have they seen the attack method of directly cutting people in half like cutting mutton? This is too scary. But this is still not the most unacceptable thing for them. Before they set off, they did hear that the other party had a transportation tool called a cart, which could carry a lot of things, but no one had ever seen what it looked like. They thought that this time would be a big loss, as long as they could grab the other party's livestock and those white salts, as well as a large number of other materials. This trip would not be a loss. If people were lost, they could just go to other tribes and abduct a batch. But what they never expected was that the expected horse-drawn transport team did not appear, but a circle of strange things made of wood appeared. Those things were very large, filled with bags of goods connected one by one, forming a barrier that could not be crossed at all. When looting the horse-drawn caravan of the Shin tribe before, as long as they charged once, they could disperse the team. After killing the guards of the other side, they could then take the horses along with them. This way, they could rob all the materials and horses. But when they encountered this strange Han tribe, they couldn't even rush in. How could they take the horses along with them? But so many people have died and injured, and they have already rushed to the front of the other side. They can't just go home empty-handed, right? So they still followed the plan and set fire to some of the other party's goods. One team went to divide and drive away their livestock, and the other team stayed behind to kill all the members of the other party's caravan and seize their goods. But the planned killing did not happen. This team of them was instead held back by the remaining personnel of the other party's caravan. Those people did not come out to fight at all, but kept hiding behind the cart formation to confront them. Sometimes they suddenly shot a volley of cold arrows, or stuck out a gleaming spear from some unknown corner or crevice, making the team that robbed the goods suffer greater sacrifices than those who robbed the livestock. If I can't beat you, can't I still hide? If I can't kill people, I'll just grab some white salt and leave, right? But they still encountered trouble. The goods of the Han tribe caravan were all placed on carts, and when they camped at night, they would unload the cattle and horses pulling the carts. Therefore, the vehicles parked there could not be moved at all. The desire to take the horses along with them was also dashed. In the end, they had to find the vehicles loaded with white salt and grab 1 or 2 bags and leave. But the vehicles loaded with white salt were also the positions that the other party focused on defending. In order to be able to grab some white salt, they didn't know how much they paid. Some of the warriors who successfully grabbed it were shot down by an arrow just after turning around and running not far away. And this was not the most pitiful. The most unlucky ones were those who escaped the first wave of the Devil Warriors' charge, then successfully rushed to the front of the cart formation, grabbed the salt bags without any injuries, and finally, successfully escaped the other party's pursuit, but found a hole in the bag halfway through. and 7 or 8 out of 10 of a full bag of white salt were spilled on the road. On the way, in order to escape the pursuit of the other party as quickly as possible, they were all nervous and they didn't pay attention at the time. When they found out only 2 or 3 handfuls of white salt were left in a whole bag, they just wanted to die. Damn it, I risked my life just to grab this little bit of stuff. Are you kidding me? Plum. The team responsible for robbing livestock on the other side was also having a hard time. When they finally retreated, they were surrounded and intercepted by the other party's devil warriors. In the end, only a flock of sheep was still under their control. The cattle and horses that were finally grabbed were not as many as the war horses lost in this operation. The road back was even more miserable. Some of the same clan who were cut by the weapons of the devil warriors bled to death on the long journey home. They walked all the way and left a trail of corpses. Those were all warriors of the same clan who were too seriously injured and bled to death. Originally, this operation was already a loss, but after only a few days of walking, a strange big bird kept circling in the sky, following them for several days. It wasn't until someone discovered that those devil warriors were chasing after them from behind that they realized what the strange bird was doing. At that time, they really wanted to shoot the bird down and roast it. However, what should be faced must still be faced. They were chased after running so far. The other party has a big bird to help track them. They can't run away. They just hope that the other party will not attack this time. It's okay to let them return the sheep. Their weapons are really too powerful. Anyone who is grazed by them, even if they don't die at the time, will not live for more than 2 days. They will all bleed to death before it's over. The setting sun was like blood, and the red clouds filled the sky. 40 elite warriors wearing armor and holding knives, 120 sturdy and strong horses, lined up in front of the Xueyuanlang team. The leader was not wearing a helmet, but had a shiny silver tin crown on his head. He did not hold a long knife in his hand, but held a long flagpole, the 8-character banner of "Those who offend the mighty Han, though far away, shall be punished," on a white background, and in black characters rustled in the evening wind. The warhorse under him kept snorting, and the hooves with iron horseshoes kept pawing at the ground, like an arrow ready to be fired, as if it could be released at any time and penetrate all obstacles in front. The cavalry of the Han tribe had circled around to the front of the other party at some point, changed the tired horses in advance, rested for a while, and waited for them in front. Although the Xueyuanlang team also had horses to change, they had to drive and graze the sheep. They had robbed while on the road, so the speed naturally could not be very fast. Being intercepted in front became inevitable. At this time, looking at the 40 silent warriors in front, although Xueyuanlang still had about 300 people, they did not dare to underestimate the dozens of people on the other side. Encountering here today, it seems that either they have to fight to the death to make a way out, discard all the livestock they robbed, and maybe the other party will let them go because they care about the livestock, or they can only surrender obediently and pray that these devil warriors will not kill prisoners on the battlefield. But to their surprise, the other party did not attack for a long time. Instead, 2 leaders came out of the team and rode to the middle of the 2 sides. "Who is your leader? Come out and speak. Here is what our Han tribe chieftain has to say to your chieftain. Come forward and receive it immediately, or none of you will leave here alive." Yufu shouted at them, holding up the big flag. Lingfeng, who was acting as a translator, also repeated it loudly in the language of the grassland. Speaking of this, the civilization of the grassland people evolved faster. The vast grassland is boundless, but it is all flat. It is not like the tribes in the mountainous areas, where there are towering mountains and steep ridges everywhere. You can find a nook and cranny to live a life isolated from the world. Moreover, the mountain people have not tamed mounts, and they can only travel with their own 2 legs, which also makes the civilization of the mountainous areas more closed. Lacking the opportunity for communication, how can the language be unified? Most of the tribes on the grassland are nomadic tribes. They have to migrate at least twice a year. In addition, they have horses to ride, and their mobility is obviously stronger. Therefore, the various tribes communicate very frequently. In order to make each other understand what they are saying, they have evolved a unified language long ago. Even if there are still their own dialects in some places, they are basically the same. Different nomadic tribes can communicate in language without any problems. Not to mention Ling Feng, a grassland barbarian who has been wandering around. Sure enough, the other party understood Ling Feng's words, but they couldn't help but be a little surprised. These guys chased them for several days and ran here in advance to intercept them, just to deliver a message for their chieftain? Besides, their tribe is not here, right? Then how did their chieftain know about this? They couldn't figure out the reason. But fortunately, the other party didn't want to fight and kill this time, but just to deliver a message. Anyway, there is no chieftain among them. Even if the other party puts forward any requirements, as long as they say that they can't make the decision and need to go back and ask the chieftain what to do, then it has nothing to do with them, and they can go back alive. They just don't know if their chieftain will kill them after they go back. After all, the loss this time is so great, but they didn't get any benefits. Soon, a single rider came out of the Xueyuanlang team. That person was the leader of this remnant army. The previous boos had either died in battle or were seriously injured and died. Anyway, none of them survived. Now only he, a miscellaneous fish with a slightly higher status, could come out to do this. I am Tenger of the Xueyuanlang tribe, the leader of this team now. I am not the chieftain. If you have anything you want to say to our chieftain, I can tell him when I go back. A young man with braids on both sides of his cheeks rode out and said to Yufu, "Very good. Take this flag. This is to be handed over to your chieftain. Let him remember what is written on it. Those who offend the mighty Han, though far away, shall be punished. It means that you have provoked our Han tribe. No matter how far away you are, we will go and destroy you. Tell your chieftain to wash his neck and wait for the elite warriors of our Han tribe to personally cut off his head. Oh, by the way, there is also a gift for you. This is carefully prepared for you one by one. Bring them all here." Yufu felt very imposing for the first time. He held a large flag in his hand, and the 8 characters on it gave him full confidence. He felt that tens of thousands of people from the entire Han tribe were standing behind him. If anyone dared to touch him, they would probably really be found by the Han tribe. Although he clearly knew that this was impossible, it did not affect his performance on the spot at all. Soon some warriors from the Han tribe led their spare horses to the front of the formation, and then untied white cloth bags that were reddish in color from the backs of the horses and threw them all on the open ground between the two sides. The air was suddenly filled with a strange smell. Some of the packages accidentally scattered when they fell to the ground, revealing the swollen and deteriorated heads inside. But it was still easy to see that they were members of the Xueyuanlang tribe, such as the braided hairstyle, which was the same as the hairstyle of this guy named Tenger. What do you want?" Tenger looked at the heads on the ground, all of which were clansmen who were eating meat together a few days ago, but now they are all dead without a whole body. Even if they are dead, their heads are cut off by the enemy to humiliate them. Yufu did not answer the other party's question, but calmly took out a cloth scroll from his arms, opened it and glanced at it, and then directly read it to the other party. "Your tribe violated our great Han Empire caravan yesterday, robbed property, killed our people, and burned countless of our vehicles and materials. Its banditry is obvious, the crime is unforgivable, and everyone can punish it. However, heaven has the virtue of cherishing life. Raising troops and killing and causing suffering to the people is not our original intention. If your tribe makes the following compensation, this matter will be over. If not, our great Han has many soldiers and generals, and tens of thousands of troops will go south immediately, and will surely crush your tribe into powder to avenge the previous hatred. The following is a list of compensation materials. 200 young and strong laborers, 200 adult cattle, 1,000 fine horses, 5,000 sheep, and a total of 10,000 cattle and sheepskins, 500 pairs of horns. Please your tribe fulfill the compensation next spring. If not, you can just wait for your death. Yufu held the scroll in his hand and read it carefully, word by word. Lingfeng next to him was also translating simultaneously and explaining the meaning of the diplomatic letter. Both of them had seen this scroll in advance, and when the letter was sent, there was also a vernacular translation written on white paper rolled inside. Therefore, both of them knew the content of this diplomatic letter very well, and they seemed very calm when explaining it to the other party. But Tenger's expression was completely opposite to the calmness of the two. He was really more frightened as he listened. The first paragraph first talked about their robbery, which he disdained to deny, and there was no way to deny it. Robbery is robbery. There is nothing to say. But Tenger was really afraid of the following paragraph used to threaten them. That. How many are tens of thousands of troops? Tenger wiped the sweat from his forehead and asked somewhat stammeringly, You know by 100 and kien, 1,000, right? See that flock of sheep that was robbed by you? There are about 1,000 of them. 10 flocks of sheep as big as that are 10,000. Tens of thousands means several tens of thousands. Lingfeng counted on his fingers for him. All like you? Tenger asked in shock and curiosity. What, you still want to try? I can clearly tell you that we have a lot of these weapons. We can make as many as we want. It doesn't matter if you don't want to compensate. I just want to try how fast this knife is. Yufu heard him dare to ask this, and immediately drew his saber from his waist and placed the long blade on Tenger's shoulder. Yufu's saber is a straight-bladed hengdao. The blade is narrow and long, but it is very thick. It is also very heavy when placed on the shoulder. But more important is the threat brought by this knife, which is more oppressive than the knife itself. Tenger was also the first time to see the weapon of the Han tribe warriors so closely. The last battle was at night, and the visibility was very low. He could only barely see a shadow. He knew that the weapon would reflect light. It was very long, very thin, and it was a flat strip, but only those who had been hit knew what it looked like, and most of those who knew it were dead. Now seeing such a magical weapon with his own eyes, he was even more frightened and did not dare to move. The snow-like flowing light, the straight blade, the exquisite pattern of clad steel, and the hollowed-out brass guard all showed the preciousness of this weapon. This must be very valuable, and it may even take several cattle and horses to exchange. For one, Tenger thought so, but he is not stupid. He is very clear about the significance of mastering such a weapon, and he is even more clear that this is a weapon that the other party is absolutely impossible to sell. This is also the reason why he believes in the content of the diplomatic letter. Tens of thousands of warriors sound really scary, and it is also a lot. There is not even a tribe in this world that can afford so many strong laborers, but Tenger has no way to be sure whether the Han tribe has so many people. Ask yourself, a Han tribe that has such magical weapon manufacturing technology can produce white salt itself, and the output is even so much that it can be exported, and at the same time has a transportation artifact like a vehicle, and is able to send a caravan to exchange a large amount of materials for its own tribe. How many people will such a Han tribe have? It is estimated that no one will believe that there are only a few thousand people. No, I don't want to try, but there are too many things you want. I can only go back and tell the chieftain first. This is no longer something I can decide. Tenger carefully pinched the blade on his shoulder and pushed it out little by little. This Han tribe is too terrible. If they have tens of thousands of warriors with this kind of weapon, then Xueyuanlang has no chance at all. It's better to surrender. Early. I knew you wouldn't compensate immediately. Take this national letter and show it to your chieftain. Tell him what we just said. Next time the ice and snow melt. If you don't bring out the compensation, then you don't need to bring it. Yufu put away the steel knife, threw the scroll into the other party's arms and said coldly, You don't need to bring it. Do You mean you don't need to compensate? Tenger was stunned when he heard Ling Feng's translation, and then he was overjoyed. You know, this is a very large amount of material compensation. It would be great if it could be saved. Hehehe. Yes, you don't need to bring it. If we don't see the things at that time, we will directly send warriors to get them ourselves. Yu Fu sneered. Then if we compensate, how should we give the things to you? Tenger asked again. Just at the place where you attacked the caravan at night. There is a Jingguan built with your corpses there, that is, a pile of corpses. There is also a big flag on it, the same as the one in your hand. As long as you get there and wait for a Huan month, our caravan will arrive. At that time, we will first let the giant eagle come to scout. If we don't find your compensation, then the next time it will not be the caravan that comes, but the army holding steel knives. I hope your chieftain can think clearly. Also, don't think that we can't find you if you move. Our giant eagles can fly across the entire grassland in at most 2 days. No matter where you run, we can find your hiding place. Yu Fu first provided the place of delivery, and finally warned him a few words. Oh, I see. I will definitely bring your words and these 2 things to the chieftain, but I can't guarantee whether he will agree. Then if there is nothing else, we will go back. You won't continue to stop us, will you? If we can't go back, we can't bring the message to the chieftain. Tenger was almost begging at the end. He really didn't want to face these 2 Han tribe people anymore. Perhaps it was a mistake to decide to rob the Han tribe's caravan in the first place. It's all the fault of that old man who sells bamboo. This time, when he goes back, he must smash his bones and feed them to the dogs. Wait, you're just going back like this? Yu Fu stared at him with a strange look, making Tenger's hair stand on end. Then there is... Oh, right. Those sheep are all yours. We won't take them away. Tenger looked at Yu Fu, who looked unkind, and suddenly remembered that there was this. Didn't they come here to intercept this batch of livestock? Is there anything else? Yu Fu continued to ask with a cold face, but he was laughing secretly, in his heart. He didn't expect the other party to really be afraid. Just scaring them like this made them return the stolen sheep. There is. Don't keep saying, there is. Leave half of your horses. I see that. Each of you has 2 or 3 horses. Just keep one for yourself, and the rest can be regarded as part of the compensation in advance. You won't object, will you? Yu Fu drew his steel knife from his waist again. MMP. I want to object. But you've already drawn your knife. Is my objection useful? Tenger's heart was roaring, yet he didn't dare show any expression on his face. Facing the long knife in Yu Fu's hand, he felt extremely frustrated. But the road back is still very long. If we give the horses to you, it will be even more difficult for us to go back. Otherwise, give a little less first. How about 100? Although Tenger was frustrated at this time, he now represented the 300 people behind him. He must fight for it. Otherwise, if he is too cowardly today, and it is spread to the chieftain's ears by the remaining warriors, he will definitely be the first to be killed. Yu Fu originally thought that this guy called What's-His-Name would agree directly, and he had already put away the knife, but suddenly heard that the other party dared to bargain with him. He immediately drew the knife, halfway again with a clang, scaring Tenger's liver to tremble. 150, don't kill me. We are willing to give 150 horses. I think you are looking for death. Forget it, we don't want it anymore. We will just cut you all over, and we don't need to talk nonsense with you. After you are all dead, we will take all your horses back. Yu Fu drew his knife again and said, Woo. This warrior, you might as well just arrest me. I am willing to surrender. As long as you don't kill me, I will do anything. If you ask. For so many things at once, I will be killed by the chieftain even if I go back. Woo. Seeing Yu Fu take out his knife again to scare people, Tenger cried out in grievance. This is too bullying. Is it great to have a knife? You keep taking it out to scare people. I'll just surrender, okay? You can find whoever you want to send the letter anyway. It's a thankless job. Whoever wants to do it can do it. Tenger's sudden change made Yufu and Lingfeng dumbfounded. What the hell is this? He surrendered just like that? Lingfeng looked at Yufu helplessly and resentfully, and pouted at the knife in his hand, signaling that he had overdone the scare. Yufu also immediately understood his meaning, awkwardly, put the knife back into the scabbard and said impatiently, 150 is 150. Leave the sheep and horses and take your people back to deliver the letter quickly. Otherwise you know the consequences. No, I'm not going back. Your Han tribe is so powerful I want to follow you. Even if I go back now, I will definitely be punished by the chieftain. I'm going with you. Tenger seemed to have made up his mind. Go, take the flag and the national letter, leave the sheep and horses and take your people away quickly. Get lost. Seeing that the other party still wanted to say something, Yufu drew his knife again and scolded, scaring Tenger to run away. The next thing was very smooth. Tenger returned to the team and briefly explained the matter to his subordinates. Then everyone quickly took action. First, they gathered the stolen sheep and cattle and horses together, and then each cleaned up their supplies, replaced 150 horses and herded them together with the sheep. A small team even picked up the heads that had just been thrown on the ground and took them away. I don't know what they want to do with them. After everything was done, that guy Tenger didn't even come over. He shouted from a distance, "We put things down," and then ran away with his subordinates, making the cavalry of the Han tribe a little bit dumbfounded. These are the people who robbed their caravan a few days ago? It's ridiculous. How did such a cowardly tribe come out to rob? No wonder they can only live in the barren snowfield. I don't know how many years it has been, and they haven't been able to occupy a fertile grassland for so long. Think about it. It's not without reason. After the other party quickly fled from sight, Yufu and the others also began to receive the remaining livestock. Under the leadership of the Azuka giant eagle, they herded while heading to the remaining camp. So far, this diplomatic deterrent was successfully completed. As for what kind of encounter Tenger will face after returning to the tribe, that is not something they can control. After spending 3 days returning to the camp and confirming that the remaining caravan was fine, Yufu prepared to set off again. But this time, it was not to continue selling things to the distance, but to take the team home directly. As for the remaining goods, they could sell them on the way back. If they couldn't sell them, they would just take them back. Anyway, there were not many things left, and most of the goods had been exchanged for livestock and furs. Although this trip was a bit bumpy, for these people who are used to life and death, it was not an unacceptable blow. After all, when they used to rely purely on hunting in the mountains for a living, what kind of danger had they not seen? Compared with the previous life, the current life is much better. Besides, the harvest this time is actually very considerable. Although some materials were burned, the chieftain said in the letter that it was already a great achievement to be able to safely send those grain seeds back. So the spirits of the group were still good, and they were not dejectedly on their way. Yufu also sent another letter to you, before leaving for the return journey, reporting to you the process and results of this negotiation, and then began to lead the caravan to set off. When you received this letter a day later, another letter from the north was also delivered to him at the same time. Chieftain, Yu found the residence of the cannibals. Is it really on a snow mountain? Your 2 great generals, one civil and one military, came to his side again and asked. Well, they did find a tribe with a lot of people. Looking at their attire and totems, they do look like the nomadic tribes that attacked us before, but they didn't find any trace of the great apes there. However, they did see a lot of elephants that are as big as Ruru and Huishan. You can see for yourselves. He also drew a few simple maps. You took out a roll of animal skin and spread them out on the table one by one for the 2 to see. The map on the animal skin is very scrawly. The scale is basically lost. It's not drawn according to the grid method you taught them. Think about it. They can only look at it from a distance at most. How can they run into the other party's residence to measure with a rope? I'm afraid they'll be caught and eaten as soon as they enter. But fortunately, they still have a few compasses in their hands, so there is no need to be afraid of getting lost. The direction markers on the map can still be confirmed, and many things drawn on it are very interesting to you, not just the residences of those cannibals, but also some of their surrounding environment. For example, a piece of spring water drawn on the map is marked, constantly bubbling hot spring water. The color is the same as the antelope skin in summer. The water surface is always smoking. The surrounding water vapor smells pungent, and it is not suitable to stay for a long time. Staying for a long time can suffocate people to death.